welcome everybody. Going to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, consulting and healthcare. So two things that take up most of my time. I want this to be interactive, so if there's something that doesn't make sense or you have questions, just stop me and ask the question. I don't want to just do a read from a deck, but I do have a lot of content here. But I want to focus on what you find most valuable. So if there's areas that you're like, oh, I want to talk more about acquisition or revenue models, let's talk more about that and less about the other stuff. Maybe it's less about execution, it's more about those models. So I don't know. We'll just see where this goes. So quick plug here. So I'm sure most of you have heard already, but we are doing a summer boot camp program for those with biomedical, AI, or semiconductor concepts or ideas. 8-week program, paid, $4,000 for undergrads, an additional $1,600 for grad students. We'd like to get a few more applicants, so we extended the deadline from the 22nd to April 5th. So if you're interested or just have an idea and you want to do something this summer and have a lot of fun, get a lot of value, and actually get a little money, please look into the program and apply. We'd love to see your application and would love to have you in the program. Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk, so when I first was told about this, it was more about a consulting firm and building models and going to market, how do you generate business, how do you do it. So that's where this started. Then it went a little bit more towards client acquisition and models. But anyway, so I'm going to start with the consulting firm. So, why would somebody need to hire a consulting firm? So it's really to supplement expertise, skills, or boots on the ground that you don't have, right? And it just doesn't make sense from a risk, cost, reward kind of proposition for you to hire somebody in-house to do this set of skills when it's already available in the market, right? So my consulting firm has hundreds and hundreds of years of healthcare experience. What would it take to find somebody who could come to the table with that much experience to help you with your problem, your immediate problem? It's the ideal opportunity to bring in a consultant or a consulting firm to do something like that. Or skills and expertise you don't have. Like, you're a business that's not focused on IT, but you have an IT need. Are you going to go and find an IT director or a person to just stand up your infrastructure? No, you just outsource it. You go to somebody, hire a consultant, they stand it up, they do it, time box it. I want it done in 4 to 6 weeks. They do it, you pay them, they leave. That's also a consulting model, right? And then maybe you pay them a little bit to support it for ongoing support. One area that we work in a lot is exploring new market opportunities or helping companies that are getting beat in the market, right? So they had great market share, but technology came in and swept in and started to take market share away from them. They're like, why are we losing? Do we have to change our product, packaging, pricing, messaging? Are we going after the wrong clients? Are we not able to scale? That's some of your problems, right? You talked about barriers to entry, right? You guys did that because there was low regs, easy. You could go right in and just launch. It happens in healthcare. So when they look at a new product, they'll be like, how difficult is it for me to go to market with this brilliant idea? And then once we start looking through regulations and state laws and models for payment and reimbursement, sometimes it's attractive and sometimes it's not. So we help them. We help them figure that out when they didn't have to hire a bunch of people to figure that out. So we'll go in there for a few week, 8-week, 3-month project and say, this is the idea you had, and here's the true opportunity. You were looking over here, but it might be over here. You thought it's a $100 million opportunity, but sorry, it's a $60 million opportunity. Or you thought it was a $1 billion opportunity, but guess what? It's a $500 million opportunity, but it's over here. And you guys have the skills, talent, resources that could do it. That's what we help them do. We help them with a simple strategic plan, so year over year, maybe they want more success, they aren't happy. Market share, a key one, and it all has to do with improving financial performance. I have quality and regulatory down here because it's very, very important in healthcare. So a lot of reimbursement models in healthcare are based on quality. So you probably hear a lot about healthcare and improving outcomes, reducing costs, improving quality, right, and increasing access to care. So when a company is suffering from quality, they want to do a top-down analysis of where they're breaking down. We'll come in, we'll just basically start from scratch and just re-engineer the process models and say, where is it falling down? What are your opportunities to improve quality? And we'll do that for them. And we also are experts in regulatory expertise. So if a new regulation hits, it could be devastating to some companies. Some companies in healthcare are built on regulatory requirements. And if that law changes, they might actually literally not have a business. If we help them kind of prepare for that and see if they can either pivot or do something of value that keeps them sustainable, even if there's a regulatory risk. So next slide. So from a client perspective, like what are the pros to going with a consultant? Well, they're experts. They're specialized in this area. You already know that they know the topic, probably better than your internal folks. They're going to be objective. At least a good consultant will be objective. They will not tell you what you want to hear. So sometimes just telling somebody the hard truths around opportunities and being smaller than they might have expected, or that it's wrong, or their hypothesis is wrong. Help them become more efficient. By bringing somebody else to do something that would have taken multiple FTEs to do internally, right? You bring in an outsource firm, it's going to be done. It's going to be done right, rather than hiring, getting somebody in position, ramping up, seeing what they produce. Strategic benefit, we'll keep on talking over and over again. And then, performance improvement. So, we can come in and say, the reason why you're losing in market or why you can have more opportunities is because, some of your processes are broken. You're inefficient because, there are your competitors now have technology solutions that are doing things that are better than what people can do, as an example. So we'll help identify that and then help them even maybe potentially select vendors to help. So next slide. Now I'm going really fast. So why wouldn't you want to hire a consulting firm? So cost. So it could be like a sticker shock thing when you go and you talk to a consulting firm and say, I want to find out all whatever this hypothesis is, and they get stuck with a $375,000 proposal, right? So that might make them think, well, that could be maybe two pretty quality workers I could have for a year, or I can have this consulting firm do this in 3 months for $375,000, right? So it's like this. How bad do you want it? How fast do you want it? Do you trust them? Is a big deal. So you have to establish trust to get over the hump on the cost side. Cultural misalignment. So sometimes, sometimes there is a negative perception of consultants. Here come the MBAs, here come the know-it-alls. They think they can do our job better than we can. They think they know our company, even though they've been reading about it for a week or doing 1 week worth of discovery interviews. They don't know anything. So there's a little bit of a cultural fit that sometimes you have to overcome as a consulting firm to, again, establish trust, comfort. You have to get at the source of truth of what's happening in a company, or you won't be successful. So sometimes there's this little bit of risk, protection, sugarcoating, not wanting to disclose to the consultants what's really happening, because you're like, oh my gosh, if I'm the problem, I'm gonna be fired. So there's a little bit of risk. You have to kind of persuade, help people be comfortable and say, hey, look, this is to help your company and help you. We're not here for any other purpose. We're not here to, for anything bad to happen to you. There's also a fear of being too dependent on consultants. So if the company that's hiring the consultant says, oh my gosh, this consulting firm is doing way better than my people, they don't want to be dependent and paying those higher costs perpetually. right? They wanted to have it where, okay, let's transition this to our internal people. Are they trying to make me dependent on them? That might be something that's going through somebody's, and that's why I have it as a con. Sometimes there's risks in implementing what you've consulted for. So, did you get all the buy-in? Did all the stakeholders agree that this is the best path forward? If that breaks, if it goes from you presenting a strategy or a plan and then them not being able to implement it, now you've lost trust. They're like, you gave me a bunch of garbage. You're out. You're not going to come back again. So, trust again, and then confidentiality. So people are sometimes close to the vest, especially those people who I was talking about earlier that are a little bit fearful of the consultants. They're like, well, if I let them know all of my secrets, now it's documented. Now anybody can do my job. So there's those types of risks too. And then there's the idea around in healthcare, actual data. So sometimes we have to go. You got to set NDA. We can't go out. We don't, as a consultant firm, we have no rights to HIPAA data, so we shouldn't see the patient data. So that's a hurdle sometimes. You got to get over the confidentiality rate to make sure you're getting the right level of information that helps be successful, but that you're not putting anybody at risk regulatorily. You don't have to breach. So. This slide is just like a typical go-to-market process. So I'm just going to hit on the top ones. So like what we'll do is we'll basically do discovery. We'll look at existing data, material, content, collateral. We'll take a look at what the market is telling us and like kind of put together like an opportunity analysis. This is what the market is telling us. This is what you have. This is the gap. This is, if you want to invest in this, this is where you should go. Market competitiveness, who else is doing this? Do you have a chance? Oh, you're going to go up against Apple? Okay, good luck. Or Microsoft, if that's what it is, like in a tech play, or Epic in the health records world. I want to have my own EHR because it's better than what the doctors are using today. Okay, well, it's very highly competitive. And can you scale? Can you go into a hospital and actually support it? It will be pretty tough. So we give them the hard truth around the market and the competitors, give them a full market assessment, and then we will give them recommendations. So we're like, okay, it looks like you have an opportunity here. This is the best way to package it, message it, price it, and sell it. And that's our go-to-market recommendation. Okay, next slide. How am I doing on time? Good. Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about payment models. These are typical payment models. I have more healthcare ones coming up. But payment models for a consulting firm are one of these. So it's either straight up hourly rate. X amount of resources, we'll be doing X amount of hours at such a rate. Here are the hours, this is how much you owe. Project based, flat fee. I'm going to deliver you ABC at said milestones for a project fee. You are not taking any additional risk, we're not taking any additional risk. Well, the consulting firm might be taking a risk if it's more work than they projected, but it's fixed fee. Retainer model. This is I'm going to hire you for a few hours a month, and I'm going to use them however I need you. So 12 hours a month for some regulatory things are changing. I want to pull you in when I can. I want to retain you for 12 hours a month, and I'm going to pay you a rate for those hours. I'm going to have you on retainer. Performance-based fee is going at risk. So here you are saying that what I am going to produce is going to give you the outcomes that I am saying that it can do. And you don't have to pay me, or we will share, and this one can be common, they could kind of go over, where we're going to only be paid based on the performance of what we produce. So risky, but attractive for a client. They're like, oh, they have skin in the game. They're so confident that what they're going to produce is going to work. I'm only going to pay them if it does work. So how great is that? Some like a daily rate. I want to know who's going to be here or who's on my project, and I want to pay them a daily rate. That's very straightforward. And then equity goes a little bit more than performance is where, well, sometimes we work with startups and they just don't have any money. And we're like, okay, we think you have a pretty good idea. We will help you, but we want a portion of your company. So give me 2% of your company, and we will produce what we said we're going to produce. We'll stay embedded with you, and we'll take equity or shares in the company as part of the, in exchange for compensation or in addition to some fees. So those are the models. So healthcare gets a little more complicated. Question?
Yeah, can you go back to the last one?
Yeah.
Actually, I had 2 questions here. So first, which of these models would you say is most advantageous, and also the one you see the most in regards to a small consulting firm, possibly even like a sole proprietorship consultant practice?
I would say project-based. Project-based, fixed, deliverable fee. It's because it's really about no surprises on either side. Like I said earlier, you could be taking on a little bit of risk on the consultant side because you're going to want to over-deliver, but that's okay. But you know what you're going to get, and they know what they're going to get. Sometimes when you go into hourly rate, it's loose, and they can just say, look, I'm not happy. Or you could be like, why did I do this? You might not be happy as a consultant. So there's a little bit of risk. If it's well aligned, this goes back to the whole cultural side, cultural trust. If those things are solidified and you do project-based, I think it's probably the best one for a small consulting firm. Yeah.
I have one question too. Kind of goes off Ben's question, but I was wondering if it varies based on the actual industry. So for example, does there tend to be any difference between healthcare consulting versus marketing consulting in terms of what the typical payment models is?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think these are pretty standard. I think these could apply to any consulting. Anybody else have any opinions on what they've seen? I think this, you see.
I just had one more question.
Yeah.
If you want to wrap that.
No, yeah. I was wondering because I couldn't think of any other ones.
Yeah.
And then, so on the retainer model,
Yeah.
how does a consultant practice typically handle it when the client goes over like their allotted amount of hours per, would it be month, quarter, et cetera?
Good question. You build that to the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does that like additional fee, because I'm assuming they probably do it hourly most of the time,
Yes.
beyond that, and then would they make the hourly rate contingent or like different rates for different sort of categories of projects that they're taking on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So they will say, we're committing to 40 hours a week. Anything over 40 is at this rate. So maybe the first 40 are like $100 an hour, but anything over 40 is 120 because now you're taking them off of another project. And that's how you should position it as a consulting firm. Yes?
I want to ask about your experience consulting for startups. Obviously startups are smaller by nature.
Yes.
Hopefully the team is going to be the most familiar with their problem, their target market. Operations are kind of small.
Yeah.
So what kind of things are you consulting on startups with?
Often it's regulatory and competitive landscape. They don't know what they don't know to get to market.
Yeah.
And if it's Medicare or Medicaid, it's very complicated. So we help them with those models and make sure that they're positioning themselves for reimbursement if that's how they're doing it. So there's a lot on financial modeling, regulatory, and then that whole market competitive landscape is huge because you got to know who has market share today. Unless you have something very novel. If you have something very novel, now you're kind of a market maker, you don't want to undersell yourself. Like you might have something that's really amazing and that you want to maximize your potential. Because if you're setting the market, it's a big deal. We don't see that very often. Like a lot of people, we get excited too. Like we see these very, very novel and interesting ideas. And then once we go to the competitive analysis, or we look at the barriers, we're like, no wonder nobody's done it. But does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so revenue models in healthcare. These are the most common. I don't know if there are any other ones. Fee for service is you see a doctor, a physician, a psychiatrist, somebody, it's a rate, you pay them. Fee for service. Okay? PMPM, for anybody that is selling to a health plan, this is the most attractive model. Okay? PMPM is per member per month. For all the members in that health plan, they will pay you a set number of usually pennies per month for your solution. So if you do if it's a 1 million member health plan, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you do 1 penny per member per month, that's $10,000 per month, right? So that is like the gold standard for usually a tech solution selling to a plan. Like we want to go in there, we want to get PMPM. It's like people are like, what? 1 penny? Oh yeah. When you add up those numbers, it's a lot of revenue. And it's it's not like health plans. That's all they really care about is cost. So it's not easy to just walk in and get a PMPM deal. But if you can say that you are servicing a large cohort of patients, or we're talking about conditions, diabetics, or at-risk populations, sometimes it's worth it for them to say, okay, well, I know my whole population is covered by the solution, and I'll go PMPM for this. Transaction or fee. So this is the one who don't want to do PMPM. The provider organization or thing are like, you know what, I'm not going to pay you PMPM. You're only helping my heart patients or my members with diabetes. So they'll be like, only when a transaction, message, usage of your application happens, am I going to pay you. Track it, and I'll pay you per $10 per message, $10 per transaction, $10 per login. Capitation is, there's a set limit to cost that is going towards, and this is a lot of health plan talk here, towards a member per month. So in Medicare Advantage, okay, this is seniors who are Medicare Advantage plans, you guys probably see all the ads. So like, how does it work? The health plan does a risk, basically, assessment on that patient. So they're like, this patient is 87 years old, they have a heart condition, they have, they have a history of falls. It costs me $3,700 a month to have that person under my plan and for me to manage their care. For that year, that's capitated. That's all they will get. The government is going to pay that company $3,700 $3,700 a month over the whole year to cover that number and all the costs. They get nothing else. So that's why health plans are always asking people to do their health risk assessments, come in, get your flu shot, right? It's like, yes, they want you to be healthy. Yes, it's very nice. But they want to keep the cost of the member down because it's capitated. They're only going to get, so the better they can do, the healthier you are, the more money they make off of you. I know it's kind of sickening, but this is the craziness of the U.S. healthcare system. So, capitation, value-based care, kind of the opposite of capitation. Value-based care is providers and payers collaborating together and saying that we are going to collectively bring the cost of care down on covering certain members. And as the outcomes and everything improves, we're going to all collectively share in the savings of what it costs to cover those members, right? It doesn't cost $3,700 to cover a new seat. It only costs $2,100 because you know why? We're doing such a great job of keeping her healthy and making her blood pressure under control, doing all the things that you need to do to care for her. Value-based care. So this is the goal of the United States by 2030 is to have all government mandated care programs, Medicare, Medicaid, in value-based care by 2030. So this will fundamentally change healthcare, and it's kind of needed because the aging population is going to break the healthcare system. People are going to be living longer, they're going to have more conditions, we're gonna hear about home care a lot. You're gonna hear about new models, value-based care. If anybody's going into healthcare, make sure you know about value-based care. Bundle payments. This is like instead of when somebody needs like a knee replacement, before it used to be, you gotta come in for the appointment for the pre-checkup, you gotta do the MRI scan, you gotta do the knee, you gotta do the actual surgery, you gotta do the rehab for 2.5 months, they bill them. Bundle payment is knee replacement surgery, $32,700. Bundle payment. And no matter what happens, it goes well, doesn't go well, that's what I get. Kind of a capitated for a particular procedure. Bundle payment. Shared savings is really value-based care. Reduce healthcare spending for defined patient population by sharing a portion of the net savings realized as a result of that effort. So, better, healthier patients, they share in savings. The government will give you bonuses for doing good. Pay for performance, I don't know why I have that again, but pay for performance we're gonna cover. And then on the healthcare tech side, you still see a lot of licensing models. So if they can't do PM to a health plan and they're selling to a hospital system, like they will do a software license to like a large hospital for a large system, like a health record system. They'll do a license and it's very expensive. So we're talking millions of dollars in licensing fees. How am I doing that?
Good, 20 minutes left.
Oh, okay. All right. So client acquisition, again, focusing on healthcare. Probably, I don't know how different this is from other industries, but put my own kind of flair on these and what I've seen work. So digital marketing, everybody knows. You got to be there. You got to have a digital presence. Your website can't look like crap. You got to look relevant. You got to have blogs. You got to have white papers. You got to have things that are relevant in the industry for you to look attractive. And you have to network. So I would put digital marketing and networking kind of together. Community engagement, really being visible in the community or the community you serve. So, if you have a diabetes-focused solution, be in the diabetes community, right? Be involved with the health fairs, or when they're having conferences, seminars, webinars, participate. It really, really, really goes a long way. Content marketing, instead of doing a very, very broad swath of, again, if you're a consulting firm, don't be like, I consult everything on healthcare, be very focused. So for us, for example, we focus on patient access, and home care and value-based care, 3 things. So when we think from all those, anything can branch. So we focus on those 3 things, that's what we talk about, at least a lot of customers. Partner with other solutions. So, use channels. Some other companies or solutions are already in the market you want to be in. Like if I was doing something with diabetes, I would go to a DaVita or a Fresenius. These are the large diabetes, affiliated companies. They have a national network. So go to them, talk to them about your solution, see if there's a fit. That could get you into them trying in one clinic, maybe 2, maybe 10. Don't think you have to do everything on your own. Use channels. It's really smart. So AI, we're hearing a lot of that. So you can't just say AI, you got to demonstrate it. So if that's what you're doing is algorithms, AI, analytics, go to a potential customer with a demonstration on relevant data to them. Just don't say that you have a capability. Actually do your homework. They're like, hey, you operate in this space, right? Do a little demo. Go to them and say, did you know, educate them. Did you know that if you ran analytics on this, you would identify this about your patients? I'm like, oh, really? Like that is just It goes such a long way. My two favorites are, this kind of goes along with that one, is really demonstrating measurements. So at least know about the market and how it's performing when you're going to go talk to somebody. So if you can demonstrate some sort of measurements to build that trust that we talked about earlier, that is huge because that gives you relevancy and credibility to get in. And this one is my favorite because so much of healthcare data is public. You can go in and find out so much about an organization and how they're either hitting or not hitting particular benchmarks. I love Medicare Advantage because everything is public. So I can go to a health plan and say, did you know that you, well, they would already know, but they would be impressed that you know. Are you guys gonna do anything about your low A1C performance in Medicare Advantage? They're like, what's our Achilles heel? Help us. Like, and then you go in there with some demonstrated measurement and how you can help them with A1C measurements. You're already kind of in the door. So do your homework, find out what their weak spots are ahead of time. Okay.
Do you mind if I chime in for like 60 seconds?
Please do.
So you were saying, I wonder if these are applicable to other kinds of ventures outside of healthcare.
Yeah.
Across the board, yes. So I just wanted to give like maybe a little bit more tangible example to like for my industry, for like blue collar stuff, how all of these still apply. So digital marketing, search engine optimization brings us about 150 website impressions a month that lead to eventually probably 6-7 clients after qualifying and quoting and all of that. Community engagement, we participate in vendor fairs for contractors, for local neighborhoods, communities, stuff like that. Like I mentioned before, we also show up to the job site, meet people for the first time, shake their hand, and get to know their client gaps, which I'll get to. Content marketing, yeah, running ads on high quality content, no matter what you're doing, if you can display your solution and how it's effective, that's great. Partnerships with other solutions. So like, for example, in my business, we partner with a solar panel installation company because we have a water purification system and a brush. That's all you need to clean those panels. So after that company installs the panels, they basically refer that client to us. Every time they need them cleaned, they call us, and there's a marketing channel for us that's just built in. We give them a little kickback on their clients, easy enough, right? I'll lump tech and measurements together. So being able to actually quantify the impact that you're having on any clients you already have, and then effectively demonstrating and communicating that to prospects, super important. And then knowing client gaps, I love this so much, because this is basically the sole reason why my business is successful, is we figured out what really matters to our clients, and then we figure out how to incorporate that. I guess I'll add on to what John said. The most important part for me is figuring out how to communicate that in a sales pitch specifically. So understanding how to say, here's why other people are not doing it right, here's a need I know you have, here's how my solution perfectly plugs that need and provides a great solution for you and will increase your metrics going forward in this particular area. So I know John gave a bunch of great examples for healthcare specifically, but that's just kind of like my side of things, and also to let you know, this is like a client acquisition Bible right here.
Yeah, so this unmet needs and service gaps, if you educate yourself about that, about your prospect, and it also tells you if you're the right fit to service them. Like if their gaps are things that are not in your sweet spot, I would advise you not to go there until you're prepared. So the last thing you want to do is go there and get them all excited about how you're going to solve their problems and then fail. You're never coming back again. So that's something that we've learned. We got a lot of companies, word of mouth, tell each other, hey, these guys did a great job for us in this particular part of healthcare, but we'll get approached by like a device company. That's not really our thing. Like we can help you with some branding and marketing, but we can't tell you how to penetrate the market on a some sort of skin grafting device. We don't have the expertise. So don't go somewhere where you're not comfort, or you think, even though it's very enticing, especially when you're starting out. Because I did this. I learned from this. It was like you just never want to say no. But sometimes you do have to say no, or you say not now, or let me see get me somebody that can help you. And that trust goes a long way because it always comes back. trust me. People love the trust, even if you give them a referral, they'll remember you, so. But, that was great, Brad. So, any questions on this? It's very, you guys, it's very complicated. Healthcare is very complicated. But it's right, when people like get into the industry, it's hard to get out. It's like you're trapped into all the stuff and trying to help it get better. It's like a maze.
For demonstrating measurements
Yes.
in healthcare,
Yes.
are you, like those success metrics, are you mostly focused on patient outcomes, or are you mostly focused on like improving financial, success or profitability for the hospital? What are you kind of focused on?
So it can be something that helps them with quality scores. It can be for reaching, for some services, they might be attractive for one type of payer, but now want to be attractive to another. So they're like, yeah, we're doing great in Medicare, but we can't get a Medicaid managed care organization to look at us. Why can't we talk their language? So we're like, okay, let's translate your success metrics and what you've done in Medicare into what a Medicaid person would understand. Because there's also that partition of like what people are, they're very focused on their core. Like, because all the financial modeling is tied specifically to very specific things in those kind of cottages of healthcare. So you have to talk the language to a financial person. If you're like the CFO or the data analytics person, if you go in there talking the wrong measurements, they're like, it's not fit. But you might be actually knowing what you're talking about, but you just didn't say it in their language. So that's the other thing, is I guess it's terminology.
I have a question that goes back to the last slide, but
Yeah.
would you mind explaining, and I know healthcare is very complex, there's a lot of politics, but why there's an increase in popularity of value-based care and why that's kind of the direction things are going?
Yeah, so typically in our healthcare system, there's initially a regulatory driver that pushes something. For example, I'm gonna go back about 13 or 14 years. There was no requirement for healthcare records to be digital. So I don't know if you're gonna do that. That took for a law to do that. And they're still working on that law. Like now it was like, oh, not only does it need to be digital, it needs to be able to be standard so it can be shared. Because there's always been this kind of like, it's my patient. The doctor says it's my patient. The health plan says it's my patient. The specialist says it's my patient. And although it's in the best interest of that patient to share as much information in the most timely manner as possible, nobody ever made them do it. So when the specialist said, well, I like my system, and the primary care provider said, I like my system, and the health plan said, I like my health plan data, which doesn't even look like that, they didn't even talk to each other. The data didn't even talk to each other. So regulations had to make that happen. Now the regulators are like, look, we've pushed as much as we can. Like it went from like 13% of providers were digital to now it's like in the 90s. Thank God. But that took like 20 years. So, but now we're like, okay, now you're in a position where data's out there, it's being shared, we've told you guys to be shared. Now you're in a place where value-based care should be able to be delivered, and we're giving you more runway. We're telling you by 2030, it's going to have to be that way.
Okay.
But what value-based care will do, will make it where everybody has the same incentive, and that's improved quality and improved outcomes. There's no like, it's trying to take the profit motive out of the most drugs, the most procedures, you know what I mean? To make it where it's about the best care. So it's in the right direction. It's unfortunate that it takes for regulations to make it happen when that should just be happening, but that's where we're at. Yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
I was wondering what advice you would give to someone who is just starting and they don't have a lot of data on performance. they don't have a lot of network or connections.
Yep.
And can you also tell how to approach and build networks, how to identify pain points of customers
Sure.
when you're just starting out?
Yeah. So believe it or not, especially, and I'm sorry, I keep going back to healthcare, but in healthcare, there are a lot of solutions that have open source sandboxes of data. They have tons and tons of test data. I mean, you could log in probably to Cerner today, and you can go into a sandbox and you can start connecting to, it'll be dummy healthcare data, but we'll familiarize you with all the data standards and all the data. And maybe you can even run analytics on it. I know it's dummy data, but it's something. At least you could be talking in the same framework. The second part I think is a little bit more complicated. So once you've done that, you know, you've got some sort of framework or platform. Again, this is very techy, and you know, I apologize if you're thinking more about services. But you know, to get in and establish yourself and have that initial conversation, you know, you're gonna have to go in with, you know, probably like some sort of channel. Like a channel type partner who's already like in the door at the organization, who can kind of facilitate an introduction, give you some credibility. Because these companies that are giant are, you know, they're busy. They're rarely going to talk to startups. The other avenue is startup accelerators. So there's a lot of startup accelerators. I actually wrote down a list for you to give to you that are healthcare focused, and they already have the relationships. They have relationships with hospitals, health plans, FQHCs, and what they can do is help kind of incubate your idea and, you know, kind of make that introduction. And often, health plans and provider organizations like Providence, the hospital network out west, is a huge investor in health tech solutions. So is United Healthcare. So is Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. They actually invest in things. So those are the types of people you want to get in front of. You don't want to go directly to the customer yet. You want to go to those who are kind of helping accelerate, test, look at new solutions, and then they'll be the conduit to go to, you know, the rest of the industry. But and it's a successful model. A lot of people have gotten there. Like it's not going to happen overnight, but if you put the time in, it's like if you're very focused on like an idea and you can develop something, I think from start to getting in front of the right person, I think it's legitimate that you could do it in like 18 to 24 months. So you got to put that time in, unless you get really lucky, which is possible. In healthcare, it's very, very hard. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Okay. But there are organizations that help. Yeah. And if you have an idea, I'd love to talk to you about it. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have another slide?
The risks.
The rest. How am I doing? 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
All right, okay. So yeah, so again, back to the consulting side, and you might have experienced this. I don't know. Maybe you didn't have competitors, but you know, you're probably not the only one who's talking to the potential client about your consulting services. So beware that you're going to be evaluated against somebody like yourself who might be way bigger and has more resources, or smaller, and maybe you're just happen to be the right fit. But you know that there's going to probably be competition, both from service delivery and cost. So, but I would also recommend do not undersell yourself to get business. If you have something that you're delivering of value, you might lock yourself into a commitment that you're going to regret later, where you could have been in the right fit client that you could have maximized where you should be. And that's, I know sometimes that's scary when you're starting out, but that's from learned experience. Client dependence. This is I think your first problem you had, right? You couldn't scale. You got so dependent with the limited resources you had servicing just one client, you couldn't get out of them. So you were kind of stuck with like one client. You're like, oh my gosh, I want to do more clients, but you didn't have the scale, you didn't have resources. How are you supposed to do that? So there's a little bit of a risk risk there. So again, it goes to right fit, and I would say project-based modeling. When we talked about earlier, the best model, because then you know when you're going to be available next, right? Or if they want you so bad, make them pay more. Cash flow management, you've got to monitor. This is about starting out. You've got to be on top of your cash flow, what's coming in, what's going out, when they're projected, what milestones, when you're going to get paid, what bills you might owe. Scalability, again, you don't want to scale too fast where now your quality is bad, where you're saying yes, 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 yes to everybody, and you're like not showing up or not delivering. So now you have a bad reputation, and you're not going to get any more business. So make sure that you're kind of right sizing your commitments and meeting your obligations. Talent acquisition and retention you talked about also. If you're going to bring on people, make sure you bring on the right people. Not just don't bring in people just to bring in people, like any other person. Bring in the right person who's aligned with your goals, who you are very transparent with about your growth plans and where they fit in. And remember that everything you're doing is brand and reputation building, especially these days, right? I mean, one bad review and you're reeling from that. So everything you do, think about it as being part of your brand. Everything you put your name on, everything you deliver, everything you say, everything you message, try to be consistent. That's brand and reputation. Is that it?
Questions?
Questions?